Are we on now? Yes, we're on. Okay, welcome everyone. It's good morning to be here, beautiful weather, enjoyable to be outside. We have that for a few more months, we're hoping. But I just want to welcome everybody that's here in the Jack Miller Auditorium and those joining us virtually. This is the September 2025 monthly meeting of Hasp. I'm Alice Doss, president of Hasp. I'm happy so many of you came out and that you didn't decide to go golfing instead. And just a reminder, everyone in the auditorium, please turn off your phone or put it in airplane mode so we aren't interrupted by those fake calls you get all the time, at least the ones I get all the time. Okay, a couple of announcements, and you maybe have already seen it if you've been watching the screen. The Frohenthal Theater Tour and Culinary Lunch is coming up, one of our special events, and it will be Thursday, November 6th. And then in the month of December, a Christmas celebration at the Meyer Gardens. They do the lighting outside of the gardens, and of course you'll have the opportunity to go in and see the trees from around the world, and that will be Monday, December 8th. So watch for those to sign up and take the bus to these sites rather than driving yourself and finding parking. One little note here. As you know, we have a directory, and we have pictures in the directory, and those pictures are of our members. And so we wanted you to know that Ralph Fairbanks, our photographer, will be out in the back to take pictures of those of you that do not have a picture in the directory yet or are perhaps new to Hasp and haven't had that opportunity. Speaking of new to Hasp, we have new members, again, several new ones. And if you're here and I call your name, would you stand up so we can greet you and introduce ourselves to you afterwards? We have Deborah Wake, Dan Day, Al Atkinson, Dave Thompson, Linda Thompson, Betsy Clark, Matt DeYoung, John Fraswick, Betty Vischer, Valerie Jones, Jan Kensington, Eric Mueller, Melinda Mueller, Leona Mueller. Oh, I'm sorry, Artema, you're right. Corwin Stoppel and Marie Siemens. How'd you all catch that one? You must all know her. Let's have a round of applause. Oh, that's fun. So be sure if they're sitting near you, now this is your chance to say they know one other person or two other people at Hasp, okay? Today, I just wanted to remind everyone our topic is promoting vaccine confidence. And this is kind of interesting because the new COVID is going to be available in the next few days. So I think you'll all be interested to hear what our speaker's saying about this. Immunizations are one of the most effective preventive health interventions ever developed. Despite being recognized as one of the most successful public health and medical measures, there are still questions about vaccines and immunizations that abound, and you probably see them pop up on your screen when you're on the line somewhere. And the objectives of the lecture today are to discuss vaccine hesitancy, discuss the common concerns surrounding vaccinations, review communication strategies to promote vaccine confidence, and to identify resources to build vaccine confidence. So we have an expert in this area, Dr. Ann Ryan, with us today. And she graduated from Michigan State University's Medical Science Training Program in 1994 with both her PhD in microbiology and her doctorate in osteopathy. She then became a certified in family medicine and practiced in rural Michigan. Then during her years there, she developed a practice of complementary medicine, which for some of you who aren't sure what that is, it is such a thing as acupuncture and that type of add-on. Doesn't replace what you're doing with your medical, but it enhances it. After 16 years in rural Michigan, she returned to East Lansing, and from 2011 through 2014, she provided primary care at the MSU Student Health Center. In 2013, Dr. Ryan joined the Physicians Peer Education Project on Immunization, a collaborative effort from the CDC, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the MSU Extension Service. As a presenter for the project, she provides updates on vaccine-preventable diseases to medical providers throughout Michigan. Having recently retired from primary care, Dr. Ryan currently devotes her time to peer education projects such as this kind of speaking, as well as her complementary medicine practice in Okemos, Michigan. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Ann Ryan.
Am I on? Ah, good. Good. Well, I thought maybe we should just have her talk. That was a great start about immunizations. And I was promised by John, who got me here, there he is, that this was a friendly crowd. And I have no doubts, because we are clearly a bunch of very fun nerds. I come from a long line, we were talking about that before, and evidently I've perpetuated some of it. So you heard a little bit about me. Let me talk first a little bit more about this peer education project. I do that with a little bit of pain in my heart, because I used to say, hey, this is a collaborative effort among, and she said it, I wrote that, the CDC, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and MSU's Extension Service. Such a strong three-pronged approach to getting us all immunized and protected against disease. And you all know about the changes that have happened in the CDC. And they've been happening lickety-split for a few months now. And so the question is, how much can we trust them as a collaborator in this effort? That's the heavy heart of it. But before I even start the PowerPoint, I'm going to read you a statement by our state's Health and Human Services Department that is so strong and so beautiful, and they sent it out on in July to all providers in Michigan, and I'm just going to read it to you because you have to hear this. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services continually reviews evidence, right, John? All of you, evidence on new and existing vaccines. This evidence, can I move this? I don't need it, right? I'm looking down the barrel at you, and that doesn't seem quite right. All right, evidence. The evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates that vaccines are safe and have saved millions of lives and prevented tens of millions of hospitalizations in the U.S. over the past 30 years. We can go back further than that, but these last 30 years have been incredible. MDHS is aware that on May 29th, my birthday was May 21st, happy birthday me, the CDC made updates to vaccine schedule on their website. What you need to know, and we're going to talk about it late in the talk, is that was done with no meeting, with no vote by the advisory committee. And that was a huge departure from what we've done since 1964. Okay? No meeting, no vote, no evidence, no scientific information, no basis. So MDHS continues to recommend COVID-19 vaccine for everyone age 6 months and older, including those who are pregnant, especially those who are pregnant. And this aligns with long-standing guidance from the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, that they only named those two. There's more. The medical community is unilaterally behind vaccines. Vaccination remains one of the most effective ways to prevent serious illness, hospitalizations, and death from COVID-19. It remains one of the most effective ways to prevent serious illness, hospitalization, and death from so many diseases. So I just have to start with that statement, just so you know where I stand. So that's me and where I stand. I know a little bit about you. I know that you are professionals from a variety of disciplines, dedicated to lifelong learning. And that's what I used to say about the CDC. I used to go pitter-patter, be still my heart. But look, we're here. We're all here. And I also know that you are evidence-based. That's why you see me going, evidence, evidence. And what made me smile most when I talked with John is that you are perpetually curious. That's a good thing, right? We have to be flexible. What we have to all think about today and every day of our lives, every minute of the day, is that our minds have to be flexible. Knowledge is not a static thing. It's not a static thing. That's why you're lifelong learners, right? It's constantly changing. And that doesn't mean that what you did before wasn't right or wasn't true. It was the best you did with what you had. And you're going to keep learning. That knowledge is going to expand. It's going to be nuanced. You're going to get a different perspective. That's science. That's why we stay so excited. That's why it works, is because it's continually growing. All right. So, we're going to have to get into the PowerPoint at some point, aren't we? Let's do that. So the Peer Education Project, we named it, but we didn't really say what it is. It's clear from the title, it's about immunizations. But the goal of the project, right up there, Peer Education Project, the goal of the project is to keep all providers in Michigan updated as clearly and consistently and thoroughly as possible on the practice of immunizing against vaccine-preventable diseases. It's a big job. Those vaccines are changing all the time. The recommendations are changing all the time. The diseases are changing. But that's the goal of the project, which means peer education means traditionally, not just entirely, we've been talking to physicians. This is different. Today's different. We're not just talking to physicians. And they asked me if I would do it, and I'm like, heck yes. I mean, that's what we've got to do. The only way we're going to get through this period of vaccine hesitancy, which is now institutionalized, is by banding together. All of us professionals, all of us curious minds, all of us evidence-based people, all of us scientifically minded. So this is a turning point for us right now. And I want to help you. I'm sure I will not have answers to all your questions, or we wouldn't have time. I mean, we do have till midnight, right, John? Okay, we still won't have time, but I want the questions. I want this to be interactive. I know we have people with microphones. We will save time at the end. We actually can get through the slides pretty quickly, because some of it's more directed to physicians, and I want you to know what's going on there, but we're going to see what applies to you and how you're going to help us. We're going to help you, you're going to help us, we're all going to band together. That's the only way this is going to work, folks. So today's a brand new start for us, and hopefully a collaborative effort now with you. Okay. PowerPoint, here we go. Aha, she told you the objectives. This is what I'm going to do. There's two main things I'm going to tell you in this entire PowerPoint. The first one is just understanding more about that issue of vaccine hesitancy. We need to do that. The second thing is actually some evidence-based strategies on how you can have that conversation with people, on how physicians have inadvertently been contributing to hesitancy, not meaning to, but we did, and how we can change the conversation to have it be more effective, to get back to our common goal. I read recently that when you have trouble in agreeing, usually it's strategies that you're disagreeing on. The goal is probably the same, and that is true for vaccine hesitancy. And you have to keep that in mind the entire time you're talking with anyone about vaccines, is we all have the same goal. The goal is to stay healthy ourselves, our children healthy, our loved ones healthy, the community healthy. We have the same goal. We have different strategies, and you can remain curious about how that person arrived at such a vastly different strategy. And if you do that, you have a basis for conversation. If it's an argument or a debate, so now I'm on like slide 24. If it's an argument or a debate, it's over. You've lost. You've dug yourself in, they've dug themselves in, it didn't help. Start with your common goal, be curious, and then have a conversation, and we'll teach you some clues on how to have that conversation. So that's about vaccine hesitancy and the common concerns, communication strategies, and resources. I forgot to ask you, let me introduce. Mendy Kent, would you stand just so they can see you, wave, whatever. Okay, she's the coordinator at MSU, at the Extension Service. She coordinates this program. So CDC maybe provides information. Health and Human Services, Michigan, our state, you guys, if you just could know those people down there, they are so dedicated, so hardworking with their hearts and their heads in the right place. And we can count on them. You saw those strong statements. I didn't read the whole thing. It's a 2-pager, so well worded. We have good leadership in Michigan. And we are going to have to take some of that leadership down to state levels or community levels, or the medical community can, we're licensed to do that so far. Resources is what I was getting to. In the PowerPoint, you'll see there's resources. I think you have that all online, but Mendy got together a 1-pager of the resources, so you can keep that 1 page and not have to hunt for what subject and easily go to some of these resources that we have. And it's going to be available to you online. How?
We'll send out an
Email. You'll have an email. 1 more page. Okay. So, Ooh, Alice already did my initial slide. Did you have that slide in front of you? One of the 10 most important public health initiatives in history, eliminating some childhood diseases from the United States, not just the United States, smallpox worldwide. Oh my gosh, right? Significantly reducing many others, money saving, of course. So this is, you can't read it all. In fact, now they have that monitor far enough away, I can't read it all. But I can move away from the podium if I have to. There's smallpox. Look at smallpox on there. 100%. It's gone. It's gone. Look at all the numbers. So maybe I'll just turn around. No, I can turn around. Look at the first column. The little table's the same as the big one, by the way. So look at the big one. Look at that first column. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of illnesses from all of these diseases. There's a lot of them. And they're not all on there. Those are the numbers pre-vaccine in that first column. Look at the second column. Those are the numbers now. So for some, we know that. We've seen the hepatitis A outbreaks, hepatitis B outbreaks. We know rotavirus is still a problem. Pertussis is a problem. We could come talk about that. So, but look at all that. Look at these numbers, how much lower they are. Here's the deal. We don't need the table. The people in this room, we don't need the table. We grew up with those diseases. They went through our families, they went through our community, they went through our schools, they went down the block. Our brothers and sisters had them. Some of us had loved ones who died or were very sick or in the hospital, and others were just miserable. I know that my mom had 6 kids with chickenpox all at the same time. Yeah. 6 kids under 6 years old. Irish Catholic. Some Irish twins and triplets. It wasn't pretty. We know this. We lived with those diseases, and this is the problem. They're victims of their own success. People don't see the diseases because vaccines were a success, right? They do not see the diseases. They do not have the appreciation we have. So please give them credit for that. You can't know unless, you really can't. You can read about it. But these are, when I've heard say that if it's one person, especially someone you love, that's a tragedy. If it's multiple people, especially if you don't love them or don't know them, that's a statistic. It's not as powerful, believe me. So give them some credit. They don't get it. We do. It's our responsibility to impart our wisdom. That's what we're doing today. We're kind of supporting each other. The name of the game is we need to be confident. We need to exude that confidence in a way that helps them get it. That's true for physicians, and it's true for everyone in this room. So you'll have the table. Look at the numbers. Have the numbers in mind. Evidence, data, it's there. Vaccines are effective and safe. You don't need more evidence than that. We've got the history. It's not a matter of belief. All right. So you'd think that would just be ingrained now, but the trouble is, victims' own success, not only do they not get how important they are, we live in a climate, we're still looking for the bad guy. We're in a litigious society. We're always looking for somebody to blame. So whether it's autism or headaches or whatever, vaccines have become an easy target. And so the risks of vaccine are highly exaggerated, factitious, and highly exaggerated. So that equation, anytime you do anything in life, anytime you walk out across the street, but certainly anything medically, you're weighing risks and benefits. There's always both. And we know what the benefits are. They're huge. And we know we haven't seen problems from it. But the idea in people's head is they just don't have any idea of this, so that's gone. And everything here gets exaggerated, so they're like, oh, I don't think I'll get that vaccine. I'm scared. Which is actually, we think, I'm going to say it. I'm going to do my whole talk without the slides, okay? Is that all right? It's not that people are stupid. It's not that they're uneducated. It's not that they don't care. I have to say that, and we'll say it in the slides too. It's not that they're stupid or uneducated or don't care. Highly educated people, brilliant people, people who really care, get the wrong idea. And that's what we're here for today. Is like, how does that happen? Back there though, so that we saw during COVID, I thought, this is it. Horrible that we have COVID, but we're going to be back to the days of polio when we're lining up for vaccines. You were in those lines. I was in those lines. Out the school, down the street, in the lines, get your sugar cube. We know what that's like. I thought we were going to see that again. I don't know if it's naive or what, but that's what I thought. It didn't happen. The numbers went down. Vaccinations went down. And at first we thought, well, they just can't get to the doctor's office. Everybody's scared to go to the doctor's office. That makes sense. But look at those. Yeah, that's 20 and 21. What about 22, 23, 24? They're staying down there. They can get to the doctor's office. So what happened? Here's some more sad numbers. Green is not good in this. Go green, MSU, yay Alice. I just learned only 20% of you from Hope, so that's good news because you're representing so many places. So green is not good in this slide. Green means, dark green, a coverage rate of less than 70% for the childhood series. We get the kids young, right? Because we don't want them exposed before they get their vaccines. That's why we get them young. And they're not getting their vaccines. 2011, all those on the west side of the state, east, a little dyslexic, east side of the state, not getting the vaccines. And then 2017, we had made progress. These are the years when I'm going around Michigan and other people are going around Michigan. And I love that graph because I never felt like we were making progress. It seemed so slow and painful. But we were making progress in Michigan. Well, now look at 2024. Ay, 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 ay. And it's not just one side of the state, is it? It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Seems to be particularly dangerous if you're snugged up against Minnesota there in the UP. Okay, red is not good either. This is MMR, so it parallels what we saw with the childhood series. We were doing pretty good, 2018, like 2017. I said, we were doing pretty good. I'm so glad we were doing good. I feel like those years were not as, I never said wasted, but we're not as unsuccessful as we thought. We were doing good, but then 2021, and it's getting worse. Look at 2024. It's not getting better, folks. We got to get those kids vaccinated. There's those lines. I love that slide. Pretty sure I can see myself. And now we're having to sell the slide, the shots, right? So what is vaccine hesitancy? We could talk for 3 hours just on that, and that's what this whole talk's about, but I'm here to give you a good message. It's not as bad as you think. Hard to believe right now. But it's not as bad as you think, because we mistake hesitancy for refusal. Hesitancy is not refusal. That's what I'm here to tell you today. Hesitancy is not refusal. There's actually only a small percentage of people who absolutely refuse vaccines. It's small. It's like 2%. And when I say that to physicians, they're like, yep, and they all come to my clinic. And I'm like, I know it feels that way because we're spending too much time, actually. We're spending too much time worrying about people who absolutely refuse them. Most people just have questions. They're being responsible consumers. If they're not asking questions, they're not doing their job for themselves and their kids. That's the current climate, and it's good, right? We're collaborators in health right now. It's not just, it's informed choices. But if we don't give them the information, we haven't done our job. It's their choice, but if we don't give them the information, we haven't done our job. They are not making an informed choice. So it's complex. There's specifics, and now I'm going to say you're going to have specific questions that I'm not going to have time to answer today. May not even have all the answers. Definitely won't have all the answers. And Mendy is here to record them, so I am gonna watch the time. I'm actually pretty good at watching time. I have 25 more minutes, and then we have 10 to 15 minutes. Oh yes, Tina's ready. She's got her sign. Pretty sure. So we're gonna ask those questions, and whether we can answer them for each other or not today, we're gonna ask them, and we're gonna keep asking them. We're gonna keep working on this. This is like a pilot presentation. I need to know what you really need to know. We brought what we have. What we have are these PowerPoints for physicians. I'm modifying it today based on my discussion with John, and even discussions walking in the door. Walking in the door, oh, hi, are you new? I'm like, yeah, I'm the speaker. Oh, what should I tell my son? That's wonderful. What are we going to tell people? So, complex issue, you don't need to know that, but you do need to see this. There's more green than red, okay? That's not like hard numbers and data or whatever. I'm just telling you there's more green than red. And refusals, small. We actually have the numbers. They're not on this slide, but they're small, absolute refusal. That passive acceptance is in the middle, but you got a lot of green area where there's questions, and we need to be able to answer them, not just physicians. So you're going to be able to answer some of them because of your dedication and your curious minds and your lifelong learning. So those are the people we're going to spend time with, those people sitting on the fence, those people who are postponing or wondering or questioning. Just please remember, questions do not equal opposition. We have to stop feeling quite so defeated and demoralized and whatever. Yeah. There's 4 bullets here, but I'm going to streamline it for you. There's 3 things people need to accept vaccines. They need to know that they're necessary, that they're effective, and that they're safe. Everyone, that's what they need. Do I need to get them? Is it safe? Is it effective? The other bullet there is very important, where it says parents, patients are strongly influenced by other parents, individuals, and what they read, often through social media and news sources. That's not news to you. You all know that, right? What you might not know, because we are professionals, we are highly trained, highly educated, dedicated, lifelong learners, evidence-based, with curious minds. That's who we all are in this room. I love Hasp. I'm so happy to learn about this. Look at all of you. That's who we are. So it might be surprising because we don't have the same knee-jerk reaction as commonly, because we are so highly trained. When an issue is emotional, and it is true for us too, because I've been there. When do we know this? Social science tells us. I have the data. It's not on one of these slides. When an issue is emotional, people rely on trusted individuals more than on rational evidence, scientific information. They rely on, they grab for who's right there that they trust, and they'll believe whatever they say. When we're emotional, we do that. I know that. Oh my gosh, I had assisted on births. I knew all about births, whatever one is. Me giving birth? All out the window, what do I do? And I needed somebody else there telling me. So we're going to be that one telling somebody who is afraid, and it's not scientific information they're looking for at that point. You know how much I love evidence, right? Come on, DO, PhD, I love evidence. That is not what people want initially. If they're hesitant, they're scared. So we have to develop that trust. There's a beautiful, do you listen to Hidden Brain, NPR? Beautiful session on trust and the different kinds of trust and how you cultivate trust and who you trust and why you trust. But that's the name of the game. So this is softer in that regard. It's not the data that we love. We'll do the data. I can do the data. I love the data. But this is a little softer. So these we can go through. Be prepared. Yes, you're going to have your charts. You're going to have your data. You're going to have your schedules. Lots of schedules. These are more for physicians because you don't need to know all the schedules. But yeah, who needs it? What age? What medical condition? What if they're behind? How do you catch them up? What about the addendums for all the new changes? There they are, resources, CDC resources. They'll be on the resource page. MICR, and we're lucky to have our health department that we have. We're also lucky to have this improvement registry where all those vaccines are recorded, predicts the next one, keeps track of things. It's required for everyone under 20, and so highly recommended for everyone 20 and older to register those. Here's some resources. They'll be on that sheet. See how we can get through the PowerPoint pretty fast. Common concerns. We're going to talk about those. We're going to talk about those in question and answer. We're going to get to those last. Common concerns. Strategies. I already talked about strategies a bit. And this is more for physicians. So we're going to go through this pretty fast. How to make sure you have that conversation. They got to be in your office or you're not going to have the conversation. How you got to bring it to their attention. And knowing the standards, assessing them like vitals. And you know what? You could educate your physicians. They might say, well, height, weight, blood pressure, da-da-da-da. You say, hey, you didn't ask me about vaccines. You can educate them from that. And they're like, all right, got that. Talk to your physicians about vaccines. So here's the communication. This is what we've been getting to all along, really critical. This is the most important part of the slideshow, so we won't go slowly through it. We won't go fast through this, we'll go more slowly. And we'll see if we have, we're good. Okay, answering questions can be challenging, right? Especially if people are in disagreement on your staff. I've run into that. So here's it. And I say this to physicians, but today I'm going to say it to you. This is the turning point here. All of these professions need to be together on this. All people who are scientifically based need to be. This is not just anti-vaccination, you know that. It's anti-science, it's anti-education. We know that, right? We've seen what's happened to some of the universities. So we're all going to just calmly, confidently, caringly stand together. We're not going to make it a fight. We're going to calmly, consciously, confidently, caringly stand together. What you say matters. I already gave you the disclaimer of when they're scared, they don't want scientific information. They grab for somebody they love. Tell me what to do. You all have loved ones. Yes, we are wonderful nerds, and we are so much more than that. We have families, we have loved ones, we have communities. We're active in our communities because you're not just about knowledge here, you're about service. We're active in our communities. People do trust us. You see all that mistrust out there, and it's just so discouraging. People do trust you. People do trust their doctors. They don't have to go to their doctors. They don't have to go to their dentists. They don't have to go to their engineers. They don't have to go to any, if we could shout it out with here, 10, 20 more professions here, they don't have to come to you as a professional, but they do. And you go to them. I know that. You're service-based. You're going to them. They trust you. What you say matters. You have to be confident, calm, kind, considerate, all that stuff. But number one, you have to be confident in information about vaccines. And I will come back and give you more hardcore data to help you with that. Today we're doing kind of the gestalt of it. But they trust you. And this is true for physicians, and I bet it's true for every single one of you. Research shows that a patient who receives a strong recommendation from a provider, from a professional, let's just put professional there, is 4 to 5 times more likely to be vaccinated. It makes a huge difference. And I will give you some numbers. I have data on this. So personalizing the message, I've been saying this a number of ways, personalizing the message. So they're not a statistic. They know you, you know them, you're talking to them, you care about their health. Personalizing the message makes a difference, a huge difference. And remember, they need to know that they're necessary, safe, and effective, okay? So they're going to be persuaded by stories and anecdotes about success more than the scientific data, which is a little hard for us because we do something different, but they will be, and it's a truth. You're not going to lie to them. You're going to tell them the truth. I get vaccinated. My children are vaccinated. My mother is vaccinated. I care about their health. I make sure they're vaccinated. Those stories make a difference. And they're true. It's just a different kind of truth than the data. What you say and how you say it matters. This is the best part, these next 2 slides. And then we could stop if we had to and do questions. But this is the very best part, so pay attention here. The best protect. We talked about that conversation is important. What you say matters, how you say it. The best predictor of reception of vaccination is how the provider or professional starts the conversation. And that's true for people who are vaccine hesitant, and it's true for people who aren't vaccine hesitant. If we're hesitant in how we start the conversation, we actually induce hesitancy in people who weren't hesitant to begin with. We have proof, we have numbers, we have data. So we're going to do a little demonstration here. A good recommendation is one that's simple, strong, and personalized. You got the personalized part, right? You know that. Simple and strong is also true. So here's a couple examples, and I'm going to stop, and I really want you to think about it. Here's 2 examples of how you might start that conversation as a provider, but I want you all, as a group of professionals, to be thinking about, okay, how do we translate this into the community? How do we substitute the word professional? And how do I have this conversation with my neighbor, with my sister, with my mother, with my uncle, with my dad, my kids, for my grandkids, with my grandkids? Oh my gosh, just sent my grandson off to U of M, and can't believe the conversations we're having. We always have had, but it just gets better. So here's 2 examples. Are we going to start it? There's 2. It's time for John's flu shot. I recommend he get vaccinated today. I get vaccinated, and my children do too. It's the healthy thing to do. Versus, research suggests that persons vaccinated with influenza vaccine have a decreased chance of contracting the disease and complications associated with influenza. Would you like John to get vaccinated today? I think they're both good. You can see good things in both of them. One's more effective than the other. So which one do you think is the way to start the conversation? Just read them and think about it. I gave you lots of clues. It's not, you teach to the test. Y'all know that. All right, next. What do you think? Which person? Not participatory. Let's name them so we can kind of think about that. Participatory. We actually were taught that not too long ago as physicians. We were taught that informed choices. Collaborative in your health. They make the choice. Give them the choice. Would you like John to get his flu shot? That's participatory. That's good. There's lots of good things about that, but that is not the way you start. You do not start that way. Presumptive. Presume they're going to get it. This is just what people do. This is what we do in medicine. Somebody comes in with diabetes, and I don't go, well, would you like to exercise and maybe change your diet a little bit? The answer is no. I wouldn't like to exercise, and I don't want to change my diet. But I read them the Riot Act. I'm like, oh my God, you're not diabetic, but this A1C is climbing. And I got to tell you where you're headed, and I got to tell you how hard it is to turn around once you get there. We got to get on top of this. This is serious. You got to know. That's what I do. It's still their choice. But if I don't give them the information, they're not making an informed choice. So give them the information, give them strong, not overbearing. You have that relationship first. And you have relationships with a lot of people, so you can do this. Look at these numbers. The top 3 bullets there. Parents refused vaccine, I don't want it. At a higher rate with the participatory approach, but look at the numbers. Data, we're finally doing some data. When providers use the participatory, would you like to? Rather than, this is what we do, 83% refuse vaccine. What? 83%? They didn't come in 80% of them not wanting a vaccine. It was much lower. Wow. But with yeah. So presumptive approach, only 26 did. Now that makes sense. Some of those are never going to get it. Some of them are going to come back. That makes sense with what we know. We were using the participatory approach, we were inducing hesitancy If the doctor's wondering about why I need this shot, well, I better be questioning it. If it's optional, I better be questioning it. If it's not necessary, I got to figure out if it's necessary for me. Do you see? So this is what I tell providers all over the place. You got to figure out what you're doing in this realm and how you can change it. So how you start matters. You're not going to be overbearing, and you're not going to do anything that closes off conversation. The rationale behind that, we're just guessing. We don't know exactly why. One possibility is that when an issue is complex, so it's that last bullet, when it's complex and it's confusing and it's big, a lot of people just kind of do what the herd's doing. They really do. We do that more than we think too, folks, so let's not think they're sheep. I have sheep, by the way. The latent farmer in me just came out like crazy in retirement. I have sheep now. I'm learning a lot. Believe me, sheep are not stupid. They just have a different kind of intelligence, and they'll teach it to you. Yes. So I have another theory about that too, but that maybe we'll come back to that. We got to keep moving, or we're good. What else do we need to get in here? Talking with patients about vaccine. So some of this stuff we shouldn't have to say, but we do. I already said it, so we don't have to spend a lot of time with it. Compassion, empathy, genuinely curious. A+ for this group. Yeah, be curious. If nothing else, be curious, because you're going to have a lot of feelings. You're going to be angry. You're going to be confused. It's like makes us crazy. And you're going to be scared. I always think I'm not scared, but I'm always a little scared. It's very scary. I don't want to see polio come back. I don't want to be the thing that turns the needle again. I saw polio. I still have a post-polio client. I actually see her at home now because she can't get out. I just do a home visit. I don't want to see all that come back. And we might see a lot of suffering before things change, because that's some pretty convincing evidence when everybody gets sick. We don't want to go that route, but we might see some. So I am scared. So you can have lots of feelings, and you need to be empathetic. They're having feelings too. They're scared too. Just always go back to, I want you healthy, I want me healthy, I want the community healthy, and know that they have the same goal. They really do have the same goal. They're very likely educated, smart. They arrived at a different strategy. Be sensitive to culture, family dynamics. It's a global community now. Understand their circumstances. So again, this is not our science, and well, it is, it's social science, but it's critical. Start from there. I said this before, I'll say it again. If it's an argument and a debate, you're done. Don't do it. It does not help. So we're probably not used to doing this, but even as doctors, we need to do this. So they're hesitant. They're like, I don't want that vaccine. Before you do need to give them information. I'm not here to say all that information is important. I'm just saying you don't start with that. It's critical that you have it. That's why we can come back. We can do the nitty-gritty, and we'll do some of it at the end, and in question and answers, we'll do some of it. But ask them permission. Is it okay if we talk about this? If they say yes, then talk about it. If they say no, agreed, no, but say you'll be bringing it up again, that it's really, because it's really important and you really care. Ask them what it would take to move the needle. That's a strategy. So where are you, 1 to 10? And what would help move it a bit? When they think about it, when they think about moving, changing their mind, it's more easy for them to change their mind than for somebody telling them they should. What would happen? And then you're curious. How does your mind work? Responding to questions. Know your stuff. You're a professional. They really do listen to you. And if it's not, then go find a resource, which is what we'll do here today if I don't get it. Defining misinformation, I got to do this. Y'all know. It starts in small trusted networks like family and friends, I told you that, and it spreads wildfire, social media. And this is when I just start crying, addressing misinformation. There's so much of it. How could you possibly even know what's out there? There's some key points. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then I'm going to show you the questions because they may not be yours, and we want to do yours. And then it'll be like 1025. I did it. And then we're going to open it up, and we're going to talk about what we can. And I've got more things, resources I want to talk about off the slideshow, but I'm going to finish this. So questions, why shouldn't I space them out? Poor little kid, 10 shots at once. Lots of good reasons not to space them out. And hepatitis B or HPV or whatever, why do we have to give it so early? Or it's not flu season yet, or whatever. Why do we need this? Mercury, autism, why we can't put that to rest is difficult, and RFK Jr. is dredging it up again. There's never been any evidence, never has been. There was evidence put in a medical journal. It was withdrawn, it was disproved, it was discredited, the research method was wrong, the results were not to be respected in any way, but it doesn't go away. That's a vaccine reporting system. We can talk about that. And so COVID-19, we should talk more about that because that's where everything, and here's the real message right here. So stand united, calmly, confidently, caringly, stand united. Whole team, we're all a team, we're a community. This is public health matter. This is not individual. It's public health. And we have to work together. There's a summary. You can read that as well as me. Good strategies. I don't know how to thank all of you for being here. And it's just a pleasure to be here. I do want questions now. I do have some things I want to tell you. One of the things that's not in there is people don't quite understand how the recommendations happen. And I'm having to go outside of the scientific community to even get some, well, no, it's still within the scientific community, but Johns Hopkins has a great article that I printed out I can read from about how that whole process goes, the ACIP, the FDA, the CDC, and what I can tell you is what, as I mentioned before, what happened this summer with changing those COVID-19 recommendations that was a very deliberate and stark departure from what we've done before. There's an article, it was in June in the New England Journal of Medicine about the same thing, ACIP, how that's working. And then New York Times recently, this was August 29th, very recently, an article on how we're going to get I naively thought, well, they can't stop those from wanting to get vaccines from getting vaccines. Well, they're making it darn hard. I'm naive all along the way, but lots of a really good article on what we're going to do about that. So, questions. Can we spend 10, 15? If you don't have questions, I'm going to read to you, and you'll love that too. So, okay, there's hands. Let's do it. We got microphones. Where are those microphones? Yeah. Teamwork makes the dream work, as my granddaughter tells me. So we got to do this, folks. We got to be there for our communities.
Over here.
Okay.
Do we have reason to be worried that the attitude out of Washington is going to affect the production and availability of vaccines for those of us who do want them?
It already has. They've already changed. The reason I thought that they couldn't stop us from getting it is because because I never think it can go one step further. But what's happened is they've changed the regulations on whether or not a vaccine can be approved. And for the COVID-19 vaccine, they decided that even modifying it for this version is a new vaccine. So it's got to go through all of these tests that is just going to make it unwieldy to get it out. So what you need to know is pharmacies, it's not a moneymaker for pharmacies. The only reason we got COVID-19 vaccine in the first place is because the government at that point, under Trump, who lauded it as this great success, the government paid people to produce the vaccine, whether or not that vaccine was one that was going to be usable or not, they were going to get paid. Normally, they only get paid if it works and they sell it. They all got paid. That's how we could get it so fast. It's not a moneymaker for them. They're not going to want to make vaccines if they can't get it approved enough for it to be used. How do they make money on it? So the vaccine can become unavailable. So they've made progress there. I don't know what's going to happen. And then there's even things like insurance. If it's not approved, I'm a physician. I don't have to worry about whether FDA approves it or license it. I can prescribe things off-label. They have to license it, but I can prescribe it off-label, meaning it's not licensed for this, but it's available. I can still give it to you. They can say, oh, you're 10 and healthy. You don't need the COVID vaccine. As a physician, I can say, using my clinical judgment, I decide differently. The vaccine's available. It's licensed. I can give it to you. But if it's not licensed, it's another hoop. And it's harder. So can they affect it? Yes, they can, and they have affected it. And then there's the next issue of insurance coverage. I can prescribe it, but is insurance going to cover it? We've known that. That's been true all along. And that's why the Affordable Care Act was part of saying, you got to cover. If it's recommended by the ACIP, you have to cover it. If it's not covered, are people going to be able to pay? You can pay, I can pay. My guess is you can pay. Not all of us have big bucks. I don't have big bucks, but I can pay for a vaccine. I'd prioritize that. There's people who just can't. So yeah, they can make it unavailable to us in lots of different ways. Pharmacies are getting so scared to carry the vaccines, and so many people have gone to their pharmacist. And that's easy, and it's convenient, and the pharmacists have really gotten on board, and they've been wonderful partners. It's a different thing if you go to the doctor. There's a doctor's visit, there's fees, there's transportation, there's all kinds of stuff. You're with sick people. There's barriers. The barriers are being erected. It's not unavailable, especially to us senior, mature professionals. We can get our shot. But it's hard.
Hi, I have a nephew who is very high-functioning autistic, and I litigated with RFK Jr. back in the 2001.
Wow.
And beat his butt in litigation, and we proved it wrong. And so my high-functioning autistic nephew doesn't have a problem with vaccines based on that, but he's a nurse, he's well-trained, and he came up with theories about the COVID vaccine, and we have not had a Thanksgiving or a Christmas since he raised these theories in 2018. And so we're 7 years out, and I'm thinking, I would like to have another decent Thanksgiving and Christmas where everybody shows up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so because of his vaccine denial, we just don't get together. And I'm thinking this is the year we're going to try to get together. So I'm meeting with him on December 23rd, and we're going to go through all his things. But it's still it's a real problem for us. And there isn't really any evidence that he can come up with that is justifying him, that will, when I talk to him about it, I'm like, that's not a good study. What are you reading? So it's really a bad situation. And
So painful.
I don't know how, there isn't really any evidence that he can show me.
Because it doesn't exist. He's not going to show you. There is no evidence.
And he was persuaded about the autism stuff. I'm not sure why we're having such trouble, but anyway, I just thought I'd share that story.
Thank you for sharing that story. I'm so sorry. That's painful.
Hello. I have a practical question here about
Oops, I'm
COVID.
not seeing you yet. Where? Oh, there you are.
About
Hi.
COVID-19 booster shot. When is it going to be approved, and what are the restrictions?
It has been approved, the new one for this season has been approved for people 65 and older, for younger people with medical conditions. The pharmacies should have it any day. I haven't actually checked that, but they should have it any day. The best time to get it is October, so I'm waiting till October, which isn't that far away, although a part of me is like, I'm just going to go get it now because what if something else happens and I can't get it? So, I mean, seriously, we have to think about that. So I'm like, so far I'm waiting. But part of me wants to run in the very first chance I get and grab one. So I don't know where I'll end up. The trouble is, I read that strong statement from MDHHS. The change in those recommendations was made, in fact, I'm going to do that. I think it's really important that you understand how this works. I'm going to read a little bit. This is what happens for vaccine recommendations. First, there has to be a pharmacy that makes a vaccine. Then they have to get licensed by the FDA. The FDA actually has an advisory board to help them know what to license. We hear about that board very infrequently. We hear about ACIP all the time now, but there's a advisory board that advises the FDA. So then then it is approved by the FDA for certain indications. Then there's an advisory board to the CDC, the ACIP, to advise them on which immunizations should be on the schedule. CDC typically has adopted that because this panel of people, of experts on ACIP are incredible. And so they say, yeah, this is what we think needs to happen. Then CDC puts those in schedules. And then those are the schedules that the doctors follow. That system has been in place since 1964. The only departure we've seen from that is this summer when they changed the COVID-19 vaccines. So it was done without a meeting of the ACIP, no advisement. It was done without a vote by them. It was done not even really with CDC leadership. You know what's been happening with CDC leadership. It's been, sorry about that. Can you still hear me? I think I'm shaking this loose. Okay, if you can hear me, we're good. Your best bet, I mean, if we're over 65, we can still go to pharmacy. We should be able to get it. They're going to feel okay about doing it. But everybody else is going to have to go to their doctor, most likely, because the pharmacies are going to be really hesitant without all of the things in place that allow them to give this standard orders kind of things. A lot of people are going to have to go to their physician, hope their physician carries it, get their physician to prescribe it. The pharmacy will give it with a prescription. If your physician may not carry it, some of those are hard to store, you know that, but they can write your prescription. If you have a prescription, that's what the pharmacy does, right? They fill prescriptions. So you get a prescription from your doctor, go to the pharmacy and get your vaccine. So there's going to be workarounds, and that is what's so good about that. I can read to you from it, that New York Times article just came out on August 29th, discussing all of that, what your strategies are going to be. But remember, I started with it, I'm going to say it again. MDHHS continues to recommend COVID-19 vaccination for everyone 6 months and older. Everyone 6 months and older, including those who are pregnant. We have had no expert advisement to the contrary. Regardless of what CDC has changed in their recommendations, we have had no expert evidence or advisement to the contrary. They bypassed all that and just made a statement with no backing. And that's the trouble. We're having statements coming out at a high level with no backing. just coming out of whatever that is, fear. It's not thin air, it's something that we don't quite understand. So we are all gonna, in Michigan, this is our best advisement from our own Department of Health and Human Services. And hopefully physicians will stand by that and they will make it available to you one way or another. They'll get it in their offices. If they didn't previously, they'll give you a prescription. We as physicians have to follow that. You as consumers have to demand that. Demand it. And find somebody. Other questions?
Yes, question here. There are, I'm sure, a few exceptions and legitimate exceptions and risks to a vaccination protocol. Nothing in there contradicting anything you've said. But would it be helpful, and is it even possible to come up with strategies to educate the reality and the scale of those exceptions that would be helpful from a public health perspective?
Okay, I think I heard part of it, and correct me if I'm wrong. He's asking about exceptions. There's
Yes,
always
exceptions,
exceptions, and
yeah.
would it be helpful to clarify those exceptions,
Yeah.
get really clear on what the exceptions are?
And educate on the reality and the scale, because I'm sure it's a tiny
Yeah,
percentage
and
of
to emphasize the
big
scale
picture.
of what the exceptions would be. They're exceedingly rare, you're right. And if people, so maybe it would be helpful not to emphasize them, but to emphasize how small they are. I think you are possibly right about that, and we do in some of the more technical information. We talk about contraindications and cautions. And the contraindications are extremely rare. If you're allergic to that particular vaccine, you had that vaccine and you had an allergic reaction to that vaccine, then you're not going to get it again. There's fewer contraindications than most people even think, and I'm going to talk about one, the flu shot, right? How many people I don't get the flu shot because I'm allergic to eggs. How many times have you heard that? It's not a contraindication. It is absolutely not a contraindication to getting the flu shot, even if you have anaphylaxis to eggs. Even though that vaccine is produced in eggs, and some of them aren't now, just to help assuage that fear, but even if one is produced in eggs, there is so minuscule amount of any of that egg protein in there that you do not see it. We do not see allergic reactions from egg to the flu shot. So that's not it. You can and should get a flu shot. And you might want to get one of the other ones if you're afraid, but you can get the regular flu shot and with no extra precautions, even if you're allergic to eggs. So yes, I think that you're right. It would be helpful to talk about the exceptions so people could understand how rare they are, so that they know they don't have to worry about it. Yeah, it's a good point.
Question over here, and that. I don't know if you. I don't know if you've had a chance to review the two recent articles recommending the withdrawal of the COVID-19 vaccine. One published in Science, the other published in a European journal. The European journal reviewed the entire experience of the Japanese with 103 million patients, and the Science one had, again, approximately 100,000 records that were reviewed. This was supported by 81,000 physicians and scientists that recommended that the COVID-19 vaccine be removed. The feeling was that there was more damage caused by the vaccine than there was benefit. Have you had a chance to review that?
I have not reviewed that, and this is why I have Mendy here. Will you make sure that she has all the details of that so that I can read it?
Yeah, because again, it was unequivocal, very strong, and very well supported with data. And as I said, 81,000 physicians and scientists recommend removal of the COVID-19 vaccine.
And can you tell me the reference again?
The reference in this country is science, public health, this week.
Make sure she has all the details so that I can take a look at that.
All right. So
Appreciate
again,
it.
there's still a lot of things going on about that. But I think one of the major points that needs to be made is the COVID-19 mRNA is not a vaccine. It's a genetic transfer, and again, needs to be an entirely different class of things. And
I
if
think
people
that-
confuse that, again, that's part of the reason you're having so much hesitation with other vaccines, as they don't appreciate the difference between
I
COVID-19
think that it's
mRNA.
really important to explain the mRNA vaccine. I know we don't have time to do it well here. It is a vaccine. It is.
It's not a vaccine, it's a genetic transfer.
Then we need to have this discussion when we can sit down with more of the information. Because all the information that I have says that that is not true. We can't finish that discussion here because we're out of time. But I think that it's really important to have that one. I knew that question would come up today, mRNA, and we can talk about how that vaccine was manufactured, what the principle is behind it. And we can all look at the article that he pointed out to us so that we can critically review that and continue this discussion. Pardon?
What is that source material?
Well,
Is
that's
it-
what,
Not to contradict the prior gentleman, but is that fake news? What is the source material that he is referencing?
that's the question, and that's why I asked that question. We can't have that discussion until we find out what the source is. So we're going to find out what the source is and find out if it's a legitimate source, and then we can have a discussion. Other than that, it's just not worth our time right now until we review the source.
Thank you very much for being with us. I guess you probably guessed something like that could happen today.
It has to. This is what we have to do.
Exactly.
Whoops.
I
guess my time's up because this fell off my ear.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, everyone.
If you have individual questions you want to come and talk to her, come on to the front, okay, for a little while.